Right then, time to start working through these decals. So we've got the kit decals, which I've cut off the box because the painting instructions were on the box. Bizarre. So we're going to start with those, with the logos and stuff, and hopefully I can put them on straighter than whoever did this one. So we've got these kit decals here. Can't work out what some of these decals are for. These are for the command module in front of the forward windows, so I think you're supposed to do both sides with the one decal. Yeah, no, I think we'll paint that, thank you. These are for the modules, the shoulders. That's these things here. Again, I don't think we're going to do that. And then, I mean, I can't work out what you do with these. So there's 14 and 15. I can't find them anywhere on the instructions. So I have no idea what we're supposed to be doing with 14 and 15. It's most bizarre. And as I say that, I just find them. They're actually decals to go in on the inside of the pods, but, well, we're not going to be using those. For a start, they're too glossy, and we absolutely don't want glossy. We want matte satin at the most. So it's more the details that I'm interested in. So, like I say, we're going to put the kit ones on, and then I've got the aftermarket, which are actually also made by MPC. And these are what they call the weathering panel decals, and basically you can put them where you like. So you've got top, bottom, side views, and then you've got the pods and various other additional ones you can put on at your leisure. So I'm just going to go through it and decide what I'm doing. I'm not doing these. So, yeah, I can ignore those. And I'm not doing these because this is the pod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the instruction sheet because it keeps flapping around on me, so I can get that out of my way. And we're just gonna work through these, I think. And we're going to start with this bad boy and start putting them down and see how we get on. So you don't want to watch me putting decals on. That's not the intention of this build. You've seen me do decals before. I'm going to put the decals on, show you what it looks like, and we'll just move on like that. But that's just an explanation of where we're up to. Right. So as I do each section, like when I've completed this, I'll show you, and then I'll come back to you when we've done the next section and what have you, so you get a bit of a look at how we're progressing. Well, that's one side done, and that's a whole evening's work. Just doing that. We put a couple on that side, but mainly done this side. So it's going to take some time to get these decals down. They need a lot of soaking. And they don't sit particularly well either. I'm continuing to do the decals, It's quite a slow process. There's a lot of them, and the instructions for them, or the two sets of instructions I've got for them, conflict with each other and aren't clear. And actually the model looks different. So when I'm doing these, I'm ending up putting them where I think, because the orientation of the parts is different. Even the shape of the parts are different. So I'm doing what I think looks cool with the decals provided. So they divided them up and said these were all the decals for this particular pod, but you end up putting them where you think. Command module is done. I'm quite happy with that. It looks suitably sci-fi. Obviously we've still got the black painting to do. What I'm doing with the engine bottles is I'm just popping them back in, and then I'm going to glue them in so that we can put the decals on there as well. And these little cylinders, whatever they are, they also just pop into place and then can be glued into place. I just need to check I've got them all orientated correctly, and then we can put the decals on those as well. So I'm going to carry on with doing the decals on these sections here. Decals that I've got left over, I'm just applying where I think, just to break things up a little bit, and then we've got the decals to go on the upper framework. There's quite a few decals to go over there, but I think this is now sort of suitably broken up and looks like it's got a bit of depth and what have you. So yeah, it's just a big job, and then we can do some more assembly work, and then we've got back to painting engine bells and that sort of stuff, which we need to paint in a sort of a polished aluminium, which I think we're going to use lacquers for that to try and get the best results. Okay, that's where I am. I'm going to carry on and you'll see where I get to in a mo. So with all the decals done, what I've done is I've clear coated the whole thing in a satin clear coat. So the decals now look painted on, they look integral, not an added on item. The decals that I've used, the decals that MPC produce, are actually really good. By that I mean that they've done a really nice job of how thin they are, so they go down really well. Well, that all looks good anyway, so that's one job done. All the decals are on and clear coated in. We have painted up the engine bells now. So we primed in a black gloss primer, which I'm going to use as the interior colour. And then what we've done is sprayed the outside in aluminium. So I've used the Kaleido paint system for the aluminium, and I'm about to give it all a clear coat using metal varnish from Vallejo, just to give it a little bit of a shine. So with everything painted, everything with decals on, everything now clear coated and sealed, we are ready for assembly, and that takes us all the way back to step 13 in our instructions, which is construction of this over the next couple of steps. So first thing we need to do is put these in their little cages. So there is a location point underneath. I'm just looking at this now. So you have the 6 rectangles there, and then that goes at the top, and that therefore should locate in that hole. So I'm just test fitting that, and then we can glue it in. Yeah, that goes in okay. So it's actually difficult to get out. But I do want to glue it in, so I'll put some glue in this section here and along the bottom of the frames, just so it's nice and tough. There we go. That should work now, hopefully. Okay, there are little cutouts in the legs which sit onto here, so you know that that's all correct. Now we could put some glue in there as well, but I'm not sure that it's adding anything strength wise to do that. So yeah, and then we have a roof section to go on top. Don't think it makes any difference which way around this goes. There we go, that fits well once you've got everything lined up. So putting the glue on the top and the back where it's less visible. Oh, I should also put some glue on the underside of the frame here, shouldn't I? So, yes, there's paint here, but because this is a hot glue, it should eat through it. There we go, that's in all the way around. So that's step 13 done. Then we have these to add. So this is the front assembly. So how's this going? So those are on the bottom, the tank is at that end. So they're going on that way, like that. They've got a big surface area to glue onto, which is good. But the fit is not very positive with these things. They rock all over the place. The rear ones are slightly different. We've got an additional pipe to add on the rear ones. There we go. And then in step 15 we put the outer cages on, but what I want is for the glue to just harden a little bit on that. So I'll build the other one off camera to this point and then I'll come back to you. My second one of these needed clamping on the corners, it just wouldn't sit. So while the glue is drying on that, I'm jumping ahead to step 18, which is the assembly of the landing feet. So I think all four of them are the same by the looks of it. And what we're doing is a lot of non-glue assembly. So we're starting by installing right, okay, so that goes on the outside, that makes sense. We can glue that in then, I think. It's quite a tight fit actually. There we go, make sure that's sat properly. Then we have one of these. Which goes in there like so. And it's held in by the other one of these. So these are left and right handed, okay. There we go. So I'm inserting the part whilst holding this little bit that's supposed to move. So that gets clamped together. There we go. That looks good. Shall I see if I can bring you in a bit closer? There we go. Then that pops on like so. You can see I've got a bit of touch up to do, and then that connects onto that there. Okay. Right, and then we need to separate a spring. That fits on there like that, and then the spring goes on there, it would seem. So that must then get glued onto that. It says use a drop of super glue to hold the spring to part 60. What I'm not clear about, this is the bit that's supposed to move, so why is the spring on the top? Let's get one of the pods and have a look. So that glues into there. Yeah, it does work. It does work. So actually, that will pass through. Okay, so what I can do then is I can assemble these up like so. We can then touch the paint up. We can super glue these on and put those to one side ready for installing. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. That's a nice easy job. So I'll get all these assembled up to this stage here. We'll put a little bit of glue on the spring, just on the bottom there, to stop it coming adrift. And then we can put all those aside while the touch-up paint dries, and then hopefully we can go back then to the next stage of these. There we go. We can just let that dry for a moment. I think in the upright position, keeping everything nice and central. So for the dark grey feet, I've used ICM German grey, which is 1038. It's a really flat and dark grey, so it absolutely ticks the boxes. And I'm thinning it with Ultimate Thinner, which is a product you can get in the UK, but I'm told is now available in the US as well. And we're just going to touch up, so anything that's not grey visually is going to get just touched in. Okay, there we go. I think that is everything covered off. So I'll work through the rest of these, by which time the CA glue will be dry on the springs, and we can have a look at what the next step is with those, or go back to these big modules and put the side frames on. Right, the bottom part section of these I think is supposed to be chrome. So what I need to do is get them chromed. I could paint them, but what I find, and I used this before on landing gear for aircraft, you can do quite a good job with this bare metal foil, which is metal looking, and it has the advantage of being instantly dry. You can see I've used it a few times. So what we need is to cut a strip the full width of that, and then cut sections out long enough to wrap round. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to start by marking out Okay, so that's a strip cut. Let's move that out of the way for now. And then how much are we going to need? So we need 4 sections about that long. So what I'm going to do is trim this little bit of tape a little bit here. That marks the outside edge, so if this works first time, I know I'm good with the others. Right, I need my magnifying glasses. I need some tweezers, and I also need a sharp knife. So what I'm doing is I'm running the blade edge underneath the foil just to lift it. There we go. And we can peel it back with the tweezers. Right, let's see how we get on. It's been a while since I've used this. Right, so that's on, and what we've got to do now is just burnish it. So I'm just doing that with my finger, pressing on, moving all the creases out. So it'll take a moment. Oh, managed to break the spring off. Perhaps should have done this first before adding the springs on reflection. And then all the creases can be gotten out with something fairly firm. So I was just using my fingernail. Okay, I'm happy with that. Just going to put some glue back on that. Plop it on. So that looks the part now for me. So a little bit of glue into our base. And there we go. So I'll make the others off camera, and then I'll come back to you when we're ready to install the feet into the model. I think the main thing is to try and get this to dry nice and straight. So I've just test fitted this, and the fit isn't brilliant. It does go together. It's probably going to need a little bit of holding for a short while. There is a lot of parts here and it creates a lot of movement. But it is fairly tight once installed. So we start with lining it up with this bit here and pressing that in, and that is quite tight and holds everything in place, thankfully. There we go. So that's that side on. We'll just test fit this side and see what we think. Yeah, that should be okay as well. There we go. That creates our forward section. That looks pretty good. I think the choice of doing the multi-shaded white rather than a complete, you know, perfect white all over is adding depth to the model, which was what I was hoping to achieve. You can never be 100% sure, but there is no interest through here. You know, you can see through the gaps and see things, and that's absolutely adding interest, so I'm pleased about that. So that's our first one done. I will do the other one off camera, and then I will come back to you. So I'm in the process of painting these, and I've done the first coat, and it's clear I'm going to have to do like 3 coats and stuff, and it's a bit time consuming. And then I suddenly remembered I've got this. This is a foil, it's bare metal foil, but it's black and it's glossy enough to do this, and they're flat, so we can cut a strip, put it over, burnish it, cut it out, and it should be perfectly ideal. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attempt to use this product, and I thought you might enjoy watching me have a try with it. I've never used it before. I bought it fairly recently because I thought it would be a great product for doing seals and stuff like that on cars, window seals. So let's see how it behaves. Make sure we've got it nice and straight. There we go. Yeah, this is going to work perfectly fine, and it's much quicker than painting. Because this stuff is so thin, you do have to make sure that you've joined up any cuts on these corners, otherwise it will just rip. Okay, let's see how we've done. Not quite cut through that. There we go, that is much quicker than painting. So I'm going to do that on the rest of them, and then I will come back to you for whatever my next step is. So our top frame here sits on this, located by 4 pins, which is nice and easy to do. And I'm just going to put glue on these raised areas because they'll be our contact points. There we go. So that's our frame in place, and that allows me now to screw this into place on here, but I think I want the glue to dry first because that's actually suspended. Once it's on there, it's suspended, so we'll move that out of the way, let that dry, and have a look at what we can do with like the engine bells and bits that go underneath on here. So as I look at the instructions, we've got engine bells which fit into the round holes. That's a real tight fit. And then we've got feet which fit into the little half round holes here. Again, that's really tight. I mean, that's not going to come out. I don't really need glue, but what we'll do is we'll push them into place, and then we'll put a little bit of liquid glue in there. So let me get the rest of them. You can't mix these up because they have different fittings, so that's our engine bells on. Okay, and then I'm going to run a little bit of liquid glue just into each one of the joints there. Get that capillary in. There we go. Actually loosens up with the glue in because obviously it's heated the plastic up. So that's the underside done. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? I'm just checking that everything is nice and flat. So there are these little parts that drop into place inside the large engine bell, but they attach to the inside of the engine assembly. So what we want to do is push the engine into place. So I'm going to just lift that up so there's a little bit of a gap. Put a spot of little liquid glue in. Push that in. And then this goes over the top and is orientated in a particular way. So there we go, like so. That's looking pretty cool now, so I'll put the rest of those on, and then that's ready to be attached on the end. So there is a little tube here which goes in down this centre column and then straddles this at the back. So I'm just pushing that down. It has been painted and clear coated previously. It's just a matter of lining it up, and once it's nearly there you can push it in like so, and then it will line up when we install it on the back here. So I think that is the next job, installing this into the rear. So it's just glue on these points here and put it on, but I need it to be higher up, so I want to attach this first onto the body, which means getting the screwdriver out. While the glue dries on the engine bells, we can install the bells that go underneath here. So they have two little location holes. Because of the rim though, it's really difficult to see where they are and how they line up. So I'm a bit concerned about these ones. Yeah. Okay, they do go in though, so we'll put a little bit of glue on each peg. There we go. And then we can push these down. I'm just trying to think. Right, that's the back. There we go, that's one on. Two on. They actually touch, which I didn't realise. Got a little bit of touch up to do on these, but not on all of them. Oh, these ones seem to go down a bit better for some reason. There we go. So that's the 4 engine bells in place. So, oh, that one's just dropped off. That was the loosest fitting one. Perhaps give that a minute as well then. So the next thing will be attaching that to the transporter module. I don't think it matters which way around we have this. Screws aren't particularly good, so I'm just going to pre-drill all the way through. That should be plenty and allow us to get the screw to go in. Yeah. So let's try again. See if we have more joy this time. Yeah, definitely. Right, so we get this adjusted a little bit, so my gaps sort of equal, which it now is, and we'll just tighten this up. So I think what I want to do is just blob of white paint, seal these, cover these screws up, make them less obvious. Yeah, that's all good now. Right then, that's another job done. I've had quite a few fit issues with this, and it's mainly due to the lack of positivity around the tubular frame, and I've got the same problem again here where the pins just aren't lining up, and the tubular frame is in as far as it will go, so you have to really force things in a little bit. It does go on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it in, and then I'm going to clip it together, I think is my plan, like that, just to hold it in place while the glue bonds. I think that will work, and we'll have to do that underneath as well. So let's get our clips so we're ready to go. I'm going to pop this off. I'm going to turn her upside down. And this plastic tube keeps moving about, so I just want to bond that a little bit. That should be okay now. And we can afford, particularly on these lower ones, to put some glue on the tube. Okay, let's see how this goes together then. When you consider that these were all put into their pegs when they were drying, so that you got the right configuration, the fact that they don't fit now is somewhat annoying. Seems to fit better on one side than the other. Like I say, it is a very tight fit. But we've got it there. So we can now do the same at the front with the back section of the command module. I think we can glue the inside cabin piece in separately after we've installed the back end. So I'm going to have a play with that, and then I'll come back to you. In theory it's the same process. I'll come back to you when that's on. Painting the black in on the command module, it's almost the last thing that I have to do in total. I'm brush painting it in. I have used my masks though to protect it. It's going to need 2 coats, so I'm just letting that dry. I'm going to use the same black, the ICM number 2. We're going to use the same black for painting the inside of my little thrusters. So these little things here which go on the little pods. So we've painted the outside in the same Kaleido paint that we used on the main engine bells. We did it all at the same time, but I just need to paint the insides black. So gonna do that now using the same black, and it's sort of, like I say, we're almost at the end. I've got hair to paint on one of the figures, and then I've got decals to add on the figures, and we're sort of there. So I have assembled the build now. You've seen me test fitting these things in the past, so I haven't filmed gluing the last bits together, the putting the pods in and what have you, and it looks really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish it, and then we're going to do a little big reveal and talk you through what we've done just to finish it off. There you go, that looks good. So I'm going to go around and do all of these pods, then glue these into place, decals on the figures, and then I think we are done. So I've decided the best thing to do to mount these on the inside of the cockpit is to super glue these onto the back, and then we'll just glue in with ordinary plastic glue into position. So that's my next job. Well, that's my figures glued in. The guy with the dark hair, the black hair, I've put on the left, because Commander Koenig always sat on this side. You know, he was always front of camera. So yeah, so I'm not going to glue this on. This is going to be, the command module is going to be left as a push on item, so that I can just pop these in, and I can take it off and look at the the pilots anytime I like. The fit is very tight, so I'm not going to do it now on camera. I'm going to take some photographs of the finished model and then put that on during the course of taking the photographs. So we are completed. The build is done. So let's just talk about some of the things that you perhaps didn't see, that didn't end up on camera. So if I bring her into view and we pan out a little bit. There we go. Right, so generally the fit has been okay to poor in most cases. Some things have fitted very well, most things have been a bit loose and sloppy, and other things just quite poor. But the actual construction process of the model is pretty good. The complexity around the engine and what have you pulls together really quite well, and it absolutely looks the part. We've used extra decals on here, and I think that's really added to the overall finish. And my advice is don't paint the whole thing a solid off-white colour. Modulate it a bit and add some interest, which is what I've done, and then just have some fun with it. We've used the Kaleido paint system in the main, so the white is Kaleido, the metallics are Kaleido, and they have worked really well. They've been an absolute pleasure to use. I think the aluminium engine bells really look the part. They've been given a clear coat in Vallejo's metal varnish, and they look great. We used black foil for what was the windows. Another way of doing it would be to paint them on the inside and pop them in. That's definitely an option, but it will give you a sense of depth because of the thickness of the glass that won't quite look right in my mind. But yeah, I mean, it looks the part. It absolutely looks like an eagle. One of the most difficult parts of the build is these bits here. These they don't fit particularly well, and I've had some real issues with that. Other than that, be very careful of the orientation of some of the parts. I've not got them all spot on and made a couple of errors, so that decal should be over there, for example, but who's to know? And I think generally it comes together very well and looks very good. In terms of painting, the most difficult part is definitely the command module and getting the window frames in and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it also looks the part when done. So we are finished. I really enjoyed building that. It's happy memories for me as a youngster, as a pre-teen. My first introduction into science fiction was Space 1999. I got the space suit, I got the Corgi toys, and I enjoyed Space 1999 and still do. I still watch it every now and then, and I always enjoy it, and I always see something new no matter how many times I watch it. So there you go. That was my Space 1999 build. I'm going to leave you with some photographs and move on to the next build. So thank you very much for following me with the journey. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more of my builds, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss it. It costs you nothing. There is lots more builds coming up, including, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, a Stranger Things related build later this year. So thank you very much for joining me. Until I next see you, you enjoy your modelling and enjoy these pictures. Bye for now.